Manu, and today I'm here to show you a sketchbook activity based on creating your own potted cactus plants. And we're going to be mixing different colors and creating a variety of different cacti in our pot. So my 5th grade students are learning a bit about different cacti in North America, and they're learning about the environment also that they grow in. So what we're going to do to start, now this is just a sketchbook activity, so I always remind my students, don't get too attached to anything you do. When we're finished today, we're actually going to take our whole sketchbook and put it on the drying rack, open on the drying rack. And next week when we come in, we'll be working on our real painting. But today, this is just for activities. So some of my students will choose to follow along with me exactly, and others will choose to change up the type of cacti that they include in their pot. But the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to make the pot that it's going to sit in. So I'd like everybody to do this right now. And we're going to start with almost like a little smiley type of line. All right, so everyone, let's do that. And then we're going to come up just like this. And we're not looking for anything perfect or exact right now. We're just getting the gist of painting our pot. So my students enjoy using these tempera paint cakes. I like them because they're easier to clean up than traditional tempera paint, so it's easy for a quick lesson like this. But when we get into our real project, I probably will use actual tempera paints that I squeezed from a bottle. Now I am leaving this white. I've used brown over here. I'm gonna leave this white for a second because I'm actually going to fill it in with some yellow. So I'm going to be teaching my students how to create different colors in their projects. So I filled it with yellow. I know you wonder why. This is going to be to show dimension. So this is to show the volume of my pot that it's sitting in. I'm not going to leave it this way. So I've gone and put some yellow down, and I think I am going to mix in a little bit more brown over here. Now this is to create the shadow effect, but I'm going to blend this a little bit more. Now remember, this is just a sketchbook activity, so this is a safe place to have your quote-unquote mess-ups. I say quote-unquote because when my students come to me telling me that they have a mess-up, a lot of times I really like what they've done, and I feel like they've added their own character and personality to it. So don't be afraid to take risks here. And what I'm doing is adding a little bit of orange. So now this pot is looking a lot more round, isn't it? Okay. That I just did that just by making it lighter in the center and darker around the edges. Now I am going to work on this more in a little while, but right now I'm just going to let it dry. I'm going to leave it alone. So once your watercolor paper gets really wet like this, you don't want to continually paint over the same part because it's going to become pilly, which is those little balls that happen, and it makes your paper weak. So I'm going to think about the first cacti that I'm going to add into my pot. And I'm just thinking about putting a barrel cactus. So I will show you how I'm going to paint that. I'll just show it on the screen really quick. It's really hard to see, I know, this is on my phone. So this is the golden barrel cactus that I'm showing. And I think I'm going to have him be like the main feature of my picture here. So I'm going to show you this. You all have a blue palette. You all have a warm color palette. So this is warm colors, cool colors. I called it blue, but what I meant to say was cool colors. These look kind of turquoise. They're actually green. I know that's crazy. I'm going to be teaching my students how to create all different types of greens because we know that this green is very generic and the cactus greens are all very different from this. So they're more muted. They're all different color greens. I'm going to be showing you how to achieve all of that today. But we are going to start with a simple green, just like this, just adding a little bit more water. So my barrel cactus is the feature, so I'm going to make it the biggest thing in the picture. So you're thinking about which type of cactus you'd like to be the feature, the star of your painting. Now in my next video, I'm going to choose a different star for my cactus painting. so that you guys can see how you might start with a different cactus. So you want to add a larger one first, okay? And what I'm going to do is I am going to add a tiny bit of brown into my cactus. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just the smallest amount. I actually just washed off my brush. So I just added a tiny amount of brown into that to mute my green, because this is a very vivid green right now. This is like the green that comes in the palette. It's extremely vivid and bright, okay? So I added some brown to mute it down a little bit, to make it look more like it's from nature. So I think we're going to add some yellow to it for the same reason. This is just to mute it down. It was really loud before. I want it quieter. Colors can be loud and quiet, just like music. Okay, so I think this is in a good place right now, and I'm going to kind of let it dry just a little bit, but I'm also going to paint around it and on top of it, which makes no sense, but I'll explain. So what I mean to say is I don't want to add any detail to it just yet. All right, so I think what I'm going to do for my second one is put a prickly pear. So prickly pear are pretty common. We actually have them in New York, where I'm from, too. They can grow, they're probably one of the most resilient types of cactus. So that means they can grow in a lot of different environments. So some cacti really prefer dry, arid places, and some are more versatile and can grow almost anywhere. So even here in Florida, where we live now, you'll see prickly pear at the beaches. At Honeymoon Island, when I go jogging, I'll see prickly pear there a lot of times. So they're probably very adaptable and hardy and can thrive or do well in a lot of different types of environments. All right, so I'm filling the foreground or the front of my picture with prickly pear. I'm just using green right now. And what I think I'll do to make my prickly pear stand out, I think I'm just going to add a touch of blue to it. My blue is all the way back here. I know you can't, it's here too, but it's all cracked. It's the same color. I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush. And what I'm going to do is just outline my shapes just a little bit. Now you're going to notice that I'm really working around my whole picture. I'm not adding any detail yet. I'm just making sure that every part of my picture gets painted. All right. So this is building the framework for my picture. And this really is how we're going to approach our real paintings as well. When my 5th graders come in next week, they're going to be prepared and they're going to know exactly what type of cacti they're going to include in their pot. And I also gave my students a little worksheet. I'll show you my worksheet that I made. I'm super proud of it. I thought it came out pretty cute. Let me just show you that really quick. So each of my students received one of these. And just as like a little coloring sheet, I used all different pictures that I collaged into this, and then they can design their own cacti in a pot based on these. So that's to give them ideas. So what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for the cacti to dry, I'm going to actually work back into my pot. So like I said before, I like to work around my picture. What I'm going to do is add a design to my pot. So I'm going to go ahead and put some red on my brush. Now, I do have thinner brushes for my students too. I have a variety for them. And again, this is just a practice exercise, so we're really just having fun here. So I added some red. I put a little zigzag. Now, when we mix colors using these tempera cakes, we mix them right onto the picture. It's just like watercolor. The way you wouldn't want to mix inside of your palette, you're going to mix right onto your picture. Now, the white is a little bit tough because if there's any color at all in your brush, it really goes and mixes with the white. But These paints are great because you can bring them right back to normal by just adding a little bit of water to your brush and swirling. So I like them for that reason. So I've just gone and added some designs to my pot, and I could do this any way I want to. I have complete freedom here. So I was thinking a little bit about Aztec or Mexican patterns, because as we know, cactus are, grow really rapidly in Mexico. So I'm thinking a lot about Mexico as I'm doing this. Now I'm going to come back to my pot because my pot's lost a little bit of the dimension it used to have. Once I painted on it, it kind of took away. So I'm going to just put a little bit of brown on my brush and bring back my edges, which were lost. There we go. Does that look a little bit better? I think so. So it's feeling nice and round like it did before. Okay, now I have a tiny brush here too, and this is for making fun tiny details, of course. Now I haven't used any purple yet, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use some purple. So maybe I'm going to go and add some little dots and things like that. My students love using the back of their brush to make little dots, so that's another way to achieve the same effect or very similar. So I'm just coming through here and just going in, making my dots. Now this is a very quick painting and it is for your sketchbook, so we're not becoming really attached to it. It's a one-day quickie painting so that we can get a feel for what we're going to be working on for the next few weeks. So my students are going to have 3 weeks to really paint their actual pictures. We'll be using different paint than this. It is going to be tempera, but it's going to be actual tempera. We're going to take our time. We'll be also working on a larger page. So it's going to be a longer project. So I think I'm ready now to go ahead and start working on my prickly pear. And I'm just bringing up my little photo reference picture. There is something I want to do to these before I start adding detail. I'll put some yellow in them. So something that we thought was just green, we realized has many, many different colors in it. So I'm just adding in some green. Okay, so now I'm going to slide up my darker colors so they're closer to me. And I think what I will do is begin to outline these a little bit. And I'll just show you. It's going to look a little bit cartoony today. We're not getting into realistic details just yet. We're just getting a feel for what these different cacti look like. So I'm making these little V's. So this is a really nice way to describe the thorns. Oh yeah, you can also make them come off. You see how I'm doing that? Now, something that's bugging me is that my picture seems to be floating in space a little bit. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for the background once we're done with all this. So we're really putting in some nice detail at this time. And remember, the painting that you make over the next 3 weeks probably won't look anything like this one. It's going to include cacti that you pick. So I hope you're thinking a lot about that. Forgot to do that little thing there. There we go. Now, usually when my students get into painting, they start getting very quiet. And of course, this is a video lesson, but I have a feeling the group that is working right now is probably very quiet at this time, because art does that to people. Here we are. Now I think I'm still going to add in some other colors. I have that blue from before. I love that blue. I think I'm going to add some dots. Just like this. And you know, it's my choice if I want to add in other colors. I could call it a day with this right now. So now I'm going to move on back to my original golden barrel cactus. That was the first one we started to make. I think what I'm going to do, I just want to show you guys this on the screen. It's hard to see, I know. But at the top, there is a little space where there's going to be a flower. So I'm creating that space right now. I'm not going to draw the flower in there, but I'm just kind of creating a space for it. It almost looks like a belly button right now. So golden barrel cactus has a very different look than the prickly pear. It has a lot of golden in it. So what I'm going to do is come back to my original palette here. And I'm going to just, I think, add in some gold. Don't worry if you get a little smear, no biggie. All right. So, something I notice is that there's actually a lot of white in my golden barrel cactus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some white. So picture this as a larger cactus plant. So not like a succulent, not like a smaller one that you might get at a wedding as a gift. These are much bigger than that. And now I'm going to come back to this. And what I'm going to do is put little stars using black onto my lines. All right, and I want to go ahead and put the flower at the top. The flower is going to be orange. So let's grab some orange. And it looks something like this. We have a little bit of red in it. Just like that. Now there's a little bit more detail that I want to add in my picture, but what I want to do first is actually add a background to it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a color that I haven't used much down here. I haven't used any blue down here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some blue in my background here. Of course, you can choose a different color. But I just want to show you what's going to pop. Now, I don't have to keep it as this base blue that I'm using right now. I can dramatically lighten it up just by adding some white to it. So remember, we can mix colors with these paints. That's the great thing about it. we mix right onto our pictures. So I'm going to go ahead, add my little background in. Now, did you notice that I stopped right here? That's because this is like almost works as like a horizon line, which is a line that separates the sky from the ground. I wouldn't call it a horizon line because this is not outside. I have mine on a table. So this is the table over here. And now I'm going to go ahead and make a background color. I think I will do yellow because that's another color I haven't used much. And it's just going to help your picture look very colorful. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this into the background. Now, we're not trying to be ultra neat today. We're going to save ultra neat for our real picture. So again, this is just our sketchbook picture. We don't want it to come too attached to it. It's our sloppy copy. All right, and I might come back in with just a little bit more detail, but I'm really close to being finished with this. I'm really happy with what I've done. So I think I am going to just add a little bit more detail into the flower that's up here. I'm just going to go like that. You don't have to use black for all of your outlining, so you can use other colors. If you want to continue, you can. See, I just added some, I went and put brown on top of the white, but I can bring back the white just by putting some water on my brush and swirling. So you can look around your picture and see if anything else needs to be finished, but this might be a really good time to finish up for the day. All right, and I'm going to, actually I'm just going to do like one more thing here, and then I'm going to sign off. So I like the center of my pot to be just a little bit brighter, just to show the volume. All right, I think I really am happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.